Let's unmute myself. The tool is not working anymore. Comment je fais pour inutile? Putain, c'est quoi ce bordel? Mais c'est quoi ce bordel? Le truc, il est... Putain, il marche plus le tool. Je peux plus le inutile. Tu peux contrôler si ils entendent ou pas? Putain, ce tool de merde. Ça marche pas. Good morning, everybody. So it's 10:30. We are about to start our webinar about the GEOENVI project. I hope everybody can hear me well. So we will have 1 hour and a half of discussion about this project that just started 6 months ago. As you see the agenda on your screen, we will have an overview of a project presentation, and after we'll discuss some specific topic. And for each topic, we'll have a question and answer session. So feel free during this question and answer session to ask your question. You could see from this tool, you can ask questions, you can chat, and raise your hand also if you have some words to say. So I will start the presentation to present you the overview of our project. As I was mentioning, this project supported by the European Commission started 6 months ago, and it will last for 30 months in total, so we still have 2 years for delivering our work. So the project overview is the following. Where it comes the idea of developing this project? It comes that geothermal energy, it's a technology able to produce both power and heating and cooling, but the advantages of using geothermal are not widely known. And recently we have seen in some regions in Europe a negative perception for developing deep geothermal energy production, and notably special attention from some decision makers in terms of the environmental performance of geothermal energy. We see that as a barrier which can also seriously hamper its market uptake. For this reason, several media have reported more about the disadvantages than the advantages of developing geothermal energy. And as a result, the concern has also been even more important. As we have noticed that the sector wanted to answer to these concerns and came with a proposal of this GEOENVI project. You could see here the consortium. So this project is led by EGEC, the European Geothermal Energy Association, and we have a consortium of 16 partners coming from 6 different countries. In top of EGEC located in Belgium, you have partners from Italy, France, Hungary, Iceland, and Turkey. The project involves 3 kinds of key actors. First, of course, as we are mentioning, referring to decision makers. So we are involving public environmental institutions and regulatory authorities. One objective is to assess what are the current legislations and regulatory framework in the 6 countries which are the target of our project, and to come with some recommendations in terms of environmental regulations if we see that in some countries some improvement can still be done. The terminology is important in this case. Indeed, this project is supported by the European Commission, and the wording proposed was to investigate harmonization of environmental regulation, but currently the project is more looking at mutual recognition with minimum standards in terms of environmental performance. A second group of actors important in the project are the market actors, the industry, the project developers, so the one developing and operating the deep geothermal energy project. During the 30-month development of our GEOENVI project, all the market actors will be involved, will be consulted in order to come with a strong proposal for reducing environmental concerns of developing geothermal project, and to come with some methodology on how to assess the life cycle assessment of the environmental impact of a geothermal project. Last but not least, in order to also have more trust about our studies, more credibility about our reporting, we have a range of high-level scientific experts that are granting the results of our project. So they will be involved in drafting our region, but they will mainly involved in designing the methodology, granting a good methodology and tools on environmental impact and life cycle assessment. As I was mentioning, the target areas are 6 countries. You can see from these 6 countries, if you are familiar with European geology and market development, that these countries are representing different geology in Europe, but also different stage of market maturity regarding deep geothermal energy projects. So all of that should also allow, at the end of a project, to disseminate the results to cover the rest of Europe. I will be fast in showing you the structure, but just to say that we are working first in assessing environmental aspects, and after developing some methodology for life cycle assessment, looking at regulations and looking at some methodology for the market actors. This topic of environmental matters will be the first topic to be developed by this webinar. The leader of this work package is BRGM, the French Geological Survey, and you will see just after my presentation more details on what is under development with this topic. Secondly, we are developing a methodology on life cycle assessment. Here the work package leader is Christophe Noun, but the presenter today is Isabelle Blanc from the École des Mines in Paris, which will specialize in presenting the guidelines for developing the life cycle assessment. So also here we will hear where we are on this development. And after having developed some tools, we will try to implement these tools. So first, in terms of environmental regulations, we'll need to engage with decision makers. Here the leader is Vito, and we will hear from Peter Valkering what will be the activities of the project regarding this topic. Finally, we will engage with market actors. Here the leader is Loredana Torcello from COSVIG, and she will explain us what will be the activities of the GEOENVI project, how to engage with the geothermal project developers and operators. I conclude here the short presentation overview, because now we'll go to more details about the project. I hope you will enjoy this webinar. I just want to inform you that we are more than 100 people following this webinar, so a lot of interest in this project. I hope that we will answer to all this interest. I will give the floor now to Annick Lechester from BRGM to present us the environmental matters work package 2. So I'm downloading the presentation, and Annick, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Annick Locheter from BAGM, the French Geological Survey. As mentioned by Philippe, I'm now going to present the progress of Work Package 2 on behalf of all partners involved in Work Package 2. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes, just to start with a few information concerning Work Package 2. It is led by BAGM. The duration is 1 year, so it will end in October this year. The main objective is to map environmental impacts and risks of deep geothermal activities. We have a total man-month of 53, and main partners involved in the work package are BAGM, the Icelandic partner ISOR, in Italy, CNR and CSGI, and the Turkish partner DU. You have below an overview of tasks and deliverables. The work package is divided in 4 main tasks. The first one is an overall state of the art with a report that will be delivered at the end of October. We have a second task that is dedicated to literature review on analysis of mitigation measures that will be delivered at the end of August. A third task that is more independent. The idea is to compare the environmental risks and impacts of geothermal activities with risks and impacts of other renewable energies. And the last task is the elaboration of a database that will be public for everybody to see the results of the literature review. Next slide, please. Before presenting the preliminary results, we remind the objectives of the work package here. The main objective will be to map environmental impacts and risks, as well as their perception, and to define how environmental footprint of deep geothermal plants in Europe is measured and controlled in different countries. Partners will also analyze adopted solutions to reduce or circumvent impacts and risks and quantify their potential and their technology readiness level. So this is second task. Also, the objective does not focus on societal concerns. We will pay attention to the perception of these environmental concerns by the society and the decision makers. Next slide, please. And in order to broaden the common understanding of environmental aspects of deep geothermal energy, we will discuss the environmental impacts and risk with regard to other renewable energies. So this is the third task. The results will take the form of a public report with an associated online public database dedicated notably to stakeholders of deep geothermal projects. Of course, the results of Work Package 2 will be useful for other work package within the project. Next slide, please. At the end, the idea is to integrate results of literature review in the online database corresponding to task 4. For this reason, in the presentation delivered today, we mainly present preliminary results concerning the database, but please keep in mind that it corresponds to task 1, 2, and 4. Task 1 and 2 will indeed provide the material to feed the database. So here you have a very preliminary overview of the database. We will have a first tab with a home page presenting the project, making the link with the GEOENVI website and so on. Another page for terminology because it appears very necessary through the discussion with partners. You have an overview. Next slide, please. Yes. And then the idea is to have at least 2 main tabs in the database. So there will be one that is documentation on environmental issues and site database. I'm now going to present this documentation on environmental issues. That is one of the main results of Work Package 2. So next slide, please. So this is what it could look like. This is a draft version. Of course, it's going to evolve in next week. This is at the moment the 6 months. So we have 6 remaining months. Of course, it's going to evolve, but this is what it could look like. Up to now, many efforts were focused on the elaboration of a categorization of risks and impacts. At the beginning of the project, we realized that it was difficult to progress because different partners were discussing at different levels. For example, discussing tubing and cementing defaults is very different from discussing consequences on a given compartment, for instance, let's say effects on human health. So in the categorization presented here, the middle line corresponds to the impacting phenomena. I will now start with presentation of this middle line that will be central in the future work. As you can see, we decided to categorize the impacting phenomena in 5 different main categories. The first one is effects of operation. So you can find there energy and resource consumption, surface waste production, emission to the environment due to surface operation, all nuisances, that's to say vibration, noise, smell, visual impact, dust, and maybe leak due to surface operation and installation that in some case might lead to explosion. The second main category is surface emission from underground. You can find there liquid and solid effusion and wastes. That's to say all liquid and solid material that are retrieved from underground, then degassing, radioactivity that may be contained in the liquid and solid materials, blowout, and emission of heat. The third category is geomechanical disturbance containing ground elevation, induced seismicity, and surface disturbance. Then we have another category that is underground fluid disturbance with pressure flow change in reservoir, disturbance of non-targeted aquifer, and connection of aquifer. And last one is thermal and chemical underground disturbance with thermal change and chemical change. These phenomena, if occurring, have consequences on different receptors. We classify the main environmental receptors as humans. So this is the last line, the yellow line. Humans, ecosystems, atmosphere, underground water, and other activities that are more or less related to environmental issues. And for each of these compartments, we identified a number of possible consequences. For example, for humans, the possible consequences identified are accident, effects on human health, alteration of living conditions, psychological impact, and so on for other receptors. Then, if we have a look upstream, we try to identify main causes of the phenomena that are listed in the middle line. The classification was quite tricky, and at the end we kept this categorization. Some phenomena, in particular phenomena that correspond to impacts, are due to normal operation. So this is the first grey box on the top line, planned operation, where you can find the main phases of a project. For example, this planned operation may lead to some phenomena induced seismicity, for example, maybe due to stimulation operation. As a second category, we propose uncertain context, corresponding to the fact that most engineering choices are made with a high level of uncertainty. And for instance, the mud weight used for drilling should be chosen depending on the stress state and on rock properties. But these properties generally suffer lack of knowledge, thus leading to non-optimal choice. Last category corresponds to incidents and technical failure, with causes that can be more easily managed by application of best practice. We can find there surface reservoir and storage, unit defaults, defective bob, human error, and so on. The categorization was elaborated based on preliminary literature review and on discussion between partners. Of course, it will probably be adjusted in next month. In the database, the idea is then to use this categorization as main page and to access the results of the literature review through it. As you can see on left, we propose a number of filters. We will just illustrate the ideas behind rapidly now, just that you can see what we have in mind for this online database. So on next slide, we have an example of the first filter. If you activate the filter that is entitled Highlight Causes and Consequences of Impacting Phenomena, and then you fly over an impacting phenomenon. As you can see here, the mouse is on energy and resource consumption. You will see the possible causes in orange, so the possible phases also, and the possible consequences. Here, for example, with energy and resource consumption, is going to cause emissions to the environment, probably vibration, noise, and also resource consumption. So the idea is that for each impacting phenomenon, if you fly over with the mouse, you can see which has possible causes and the possible consequences. Another example of filter, next slide. So now we activate the filter discriminate impacting phenomena depending on if they constitute a risk or an impact. So by impact, we mean something that is sure to happen. If the geothermal activity is carried out, it's sure that for drilling the well, we will need some fuel, we will have some energy and resource consumption. So this is an impact of the project. And this is different from a risk. For example, blowout, this is a risk. You expect that it's not going to happen. It may happen in some cases. So it is characterized by a probability of occurrence. This is what we mean by risk and by impact. So by activating this filter, we will have the possibility to see what phenomena are only impacts, which are only risks, and some of them in dark purple here may constitute either a risk or an impact depending on the situation. So this is just to illustrate the kind of filters that we could implement in the database. Other filters are still in discussion, and we will refine the filters in following month, in next months. On next slide, let's now illustrate how the online database will enable to access main results of the literature review that is performed in tasks 1 and 2 of the work package. You will be able to click on a given item. For example, here you click on induced seismicity, and it will open a documentation page looking like a Wikipedia page with first an introduction and then the following sections. What is the origin of induced seismicity? Is it a risk and/or an impact? What are the consequences on the different receptors? At which phases of the project it may occur? Which are the influencing contexts? By influencing context, we mean contexts that may favor the occurrence of induced seismicity here, but also we will also try to identify excluding context. That's to say, context in which you are sure that you are not going to have this phenomena. We will then have a section dedicated to monitoring, another one to prevention and mitigation, another one to the perception of the environmental concern, then illustrative examples and reference. If we go to next slide, just a few words concerning these environmental sheets. They will constitute the core of the deliverable 2 point of the task 1, and they will be available in the public online database. We prepared an editorial chart to have homogeneous sheets, and these documentations are preparation. Keeping in mind the idea of GEOENVI, that's to say remove obstacles to the development of deep geothermal, the sheet should be written with a neutral and reassuring tone, not focusing only on worst case. If there are no problem in 95% of operation, of course we should mention it. We should also explain the intensity of issues and how they are managed. Monitoring and mitigation sections are very important to show how these issues are managed. So next slide. We had a lot of discussion with partners on the perception of this public database. You should have in mind that it will be translated in several European languages, so it will really accessible to a large number of persons. So the page that was presented before shows all potential risks and impacts of geothermal operation without showing all the benefits. We know that there are a lot of benefits, but here that was promised in the description of work is to present risk and impact. So how will it be perceived? On the one hand, it can be seen as an effort for transparency, neutral information, and maybe it will help to build confidence, but it can also build fear and be material for opposition. So we have a number of ideas to avoid negative perception of the database, with maybe adding another page also showing the benefits using the results of task 2.3 and other knowledge. Next slide, please. We now move to the second part of the database. The idea is to have a database with site-specific data where it will be possible to find information on environmental issues with information from environmental impact assessment, environmental risk assessment, life cycle analysis, and maybe reports concerning environmental incidents. It could have look like this, with filters, with a number of filters on left that are still in discussion. If you go on next slide, we can see some development of filters. For instance, the previous one. You will be able to find only the results that correspond to a given country, or you have another filter here that is developed. You will be able to find, for instance, only the results for which we have environmental impact assessment provided. And everybody on next slide, everybody will be able to feed the database with a new entry through a form. You will have a form that could look like this to feed new data in the database. Next slide, please. And just to conclude for this morning with the perspectives of future work, we now have to clarify the perimeter, what is deep geothermal in the case of GEOENVI. We will continue the deep literature review topic by topic and preparation of the documentation page that were presented before. The site is currently being developed. We will try to improve the design and reduce the risk of negative perception, maybe simplify the version that will be online, finalize and enrich the site-specific part, and organize the presentation of results in an harmonized way with other tasks and other work package of the project. Thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, they are very welcome.
Thank you, Annick. So indeed, we are opening now a question and answer session for 5 to 10 minutes. So feel free to ask your question to Annick if you want to have more details about one of the topics we just mentioned. You can raise your hand or you can write your question on the chat. Yes, Lorraine de Vouton, I give you the floor. You have a question?
Yeah, yes. Hello, good morning, Lorraine from NG. I was wondering how the specificities of different countries are going to be taken into account, knowing that the underground is not as well known in every country.
Annick?
Yes, thank you for this question. This is indeed an important topic in the project to work on key differentiation factors. This will probably be between others, country by country. In the preparation of the documentation sheet at the moment, we try to identify the specificities for the different countries, and we will try to pass the message country by country in the results if we have some interesting features that should be outlined.
Okay. We have also a question from Bruno Loret online. Okay for having a simplified public version, but the tool has to be we have to be sure that the tool has to be a support for developers, not for opponents. So indeed, you are mentioning terminology, Annick.
Yes, we are going to try to be as simple as possible in the terminology, but we want to keep the content, not to have something that is that becomes too simplified. We have to find the good level. Following the discussion we had at the 6-month meeting, it seems that at the moment it's probably a bit too complicated. We are going to try to maybe reduce the number of boxes, but we want to keep the exhaustiveness of the database, and this is the reason why we will put an effort on the preparation of the terminology page to explain what we mean by each word.
Okay, maybe I take a last question. The other one will be answered by written answer. I will take one from Peter Ledingham. Thank you for the presentation. Will the database include information on the different regulation in force in different countries, for example, with regard to control of induced seismicity?
Yes, the regulation issues, this is indeed something that is very important in the project. This will be taken by work package 2 and work package 4. At the moment, the colleague Heiser already takes effort on this issue, And we have the idea to include in the documentation page some words on regulation, maybe with a country-specific information, especially for monitoring mitigation actions. But probably at the end of October, the work concerning regulation will not be completed because it will be continued in Work Package 4. So probably in the first version of the database that will be delivered at the end of the year, the information concerning regulation will not be complete, but we have the idea to enrich the database in the second time in 2020 with more information concerning regulation.
Okay, thank you very much, Annick. It was, I think, really interesting to start with indeed a state-of-the-art mapping environmental matters. Now I will give the floor to Isabelle Blanc from Paris Mindtech, and she will present us a bit the work on life cycle assessment. So, Isabelle, the floor is yours. Okay, you can start, Isabelle. The presentation is online. Isabelle, we cannot hear you. Okay, no, it's go. Okay, you can start now.
Is it working now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you. Right. So I'm going to report today what we are currently doing in Work Package 3. Work Package 3 is related to the environmental assessment of geothermal systems, and we are going through a series of tools. I'm going to start first on what is an LCA and what is currently done in terms of literature review. Next slide. So here it is an interesting report issued from the IPCC in 2011, where they compile what has been published in terms of life cycle assessment studies over the previous years. And here it is representing the carbon footprint. So carbon footprint is defined as the sum of the greenhouse gases on the life cycle of a system per kilowatt hour of electricity produced over the lifetime. So here, a series of studies have been compiled for each energy pathway. We have the solar photovoltaics, we have the nuclear one, the wind systems, and we also have the geothermal systems. So here you could see it is very difficult to have a single number representing the performance of an energy pathway. There is an issue related to viability. And as you see, for geothermal systems, it varies from a few grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour till 80 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour. So it is very difficult to have a precise, unique figure. And it is why within GEOENVI, we are trying to understand better and be more specific for environmental performance of each specific system. Next slide. So, no, the one before. slides. So here we represent what has been done by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in the United States, where they have done a review of life cycle greenhouse gas emission over a series of systems. And so here you can see that it is important to specify the performance, whether we are talking about EGS systems or other systems of flash or a binary. Starting from this literature review, we are going to scan systematically what has been published recently. And for that, next slide, we have proposed criteria to report, to do a panorama of LCA literature. So here is the panorama we are currently constructing. Next one. The next one. So here are the different items. We are scanning each studies to report, to have a good knowledge of the performance, the LCA performance of geothermal system. So this is currently what we are doing. Next slide. So this, to share with you the different tools that we are going to propose as outcomes in our work package 3. So the D32 is the version of LCA guidelines for geothermal systems. The issue is that it is very difficult. There is a viability issue related to LCA studies in general. And so the idea is to specify, to recommend guidelines for geothermal systems. And this is due for October this year. And as a preliminary work, as I just reported, we are doing a panorama of LCA studies. Then, based on these guidelines, we will use them to generate detailed LCA for our case studies we identified in GeoENVI. Another tool we are aiming at is to generate a simplified parameterized model for case studies. And these simplified models, the public targeted are the decision makers, which are not necessarily LCA experts. And so our goal is to propose a selection of simple model to non-LCA experts. And finally, we also want to provide a general protocol for other LCA experts to be able to generate these simplified models. So as you see, we have several levels of models depending on the public targeted, whether they are LCA experts or decision makers, not necessarily LCA experts. So this was the first presentation I wanted to share with you. I don't know, Philippe, if you want to show the second one, if we have time. Yes, thank you. So this is just to recap the different tools we are going to deliver, and to make the link between the guidelines we are going to generate and how we are going to use these guidelines to generate the detailed LCAs. Next. Last month in April, We organized in Sophia Antipolis at École des Mines a specific course for LCA experts and Python experts in order to go through a method to generate new simplified models. And so this requires quite a high level of expertise. So to generate these simplified models for non-LCA experts to be able to use it. Next one. Next one. Yes, so these simplified models will be generated for our case studies. So our case study, we will be able to generate the detailed LCA and also the simplified model. Next one. So they asked me to turn off the webcam. Okay, is it possible to go to the next one? Ah, the one before. No. The one related to case studies is two before. Yes, this is correct. So just to remind you, what are the case studies we are currently working on in GEOENVI? We have the Sulzerforêt, the EGS case study, the Rittershofen. We have in Belgium the Balmat. Vito is going to work on it. In Italy, we have Bagnore 3 and 4 and Castelnuovo. In Hungary, we have also another case study. And in Iceland, we have the Helishady case study, as well as in Turkey. So we are trying for this case study to cover as much as we can a detailed LCA model and also a simplified model. Next one. Next one. Did you hear me? Is it possible
Yes, we
to
can
have
hear
the
you.
next one?
So the ADEME report on Sulzerforêt, yes.
Okay, thank you. Next slide.
So which slide, Isabelle, do you would like to show now?
Next slide, please. The one after the description of the case studies. We currently have the case studies now. So the next slide will be with the Sophia picture.
It's what I have from you. It's this one after the case studies.
On my screen, I still have the case study one. Okay, you just got this.
So Isabelle, it seems there's a technical problem on your screen. You're not seeing the screen of the webinar.
Yes, I do see him. Yeah, so it would be the one before.
So Isabelle, it seems there's a technical problem with your screen. You're not seeing the screen we have us for the webinar. No, we are showing how it works to generate a parameterized
Would it be
simplified model.
possible to have the one before?
But before, it's the case studies. Huh? So maybe Isabelle, in the meantime, where we can see what is the problem with the slides, we can come with some questions. I know that
I will continue. I don't know, Philippe, sorry. I can continue starting from the methodology applied to EGS systems.
Okay, here it is. So you have indeed the methodology applied to EGS system for source-to-forest. So Isabelle, you can start to describe it in it.
Yes. So if you hear me, I continue on that. Okay.
Yes.
Now I have works to generate a parameterized simplified model. So the idea is to generate a simplified model starting from a reference detailed model with an extensive number of input parameters. And on those detailed models, we apply a statistical approach. We call it a global sensitivity analysis to identify the key parameters explaining most of the variability in the outcome. And starting from this identification of key parameters, generate a simplified parameterized model. Next one.
So here you have the default point 3.4 on the design of a simplified parameter model.
Yes, thank you. So here is the result for the EGS case study in Source-to-Forest, where we were able to generate a 3 variables parameter. And so if we go to the next one. Yes, this is the results we are getting with this simplified model. So here we have the 3 variables are the depth, the number of wells, and the power of the organic ranking cycle. And based on these 3 parameters, we were able, using this simplified model, to get the carbon footprint of the EGS installation. We wanted to check if this simplified model was in accordance with what was generating by other experts. And so we compare our results, which is here 51 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour, with a publication from another EGS system published by Stephanie Frick, and she was given 54 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour. And this is the red point on the screen, Stephanie Frick results, and our results is the box plot, and with a median of 51 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour. So that was a validation step showing that the simplified model was working quite well, fitting well the performance of an EGS system. So next one. So this is just to recap the schedule of what we are planning for the next coming month. So in month 6, that was last April, we had our advanced LCA course in April. And so the outcome was to give the experts the possibility to generate a simplified model. We used another case study related to wind turbines. And we want now for the expert attending this course to be able to duplicate this method to generate the simplified model for each of GEOENVI case study. In a few months, we will be able to generate the protocol to generate these simplified models. Shortly, we will be able to have the explicit reference LCA models. And then we have feedback from the partners. And next year, in month 18, we will be able to get simplified models ready to use for each GEOENVI case study. And that's it. Thank you very much. Sorry for the problem of connection. And if you have any question, I'm ready to answer them.
Thank you very much, Isabelle. Indeed, it was a technical presentation, but I think some of the attendees could have answered it. Now we will open the floor if you want to raise your hand, because the question, indeed, there's a lot of questions, written questions, that will be answered with a written answer. So again, Lauren, yes, you want to answer? I give you the floor for one short question, please.
Hello. At the EU level, there are new guidance and directives that are coming this summer regarding energy efficiency and renewable, and life cycle assessment is the subject discussed often, not only on geothermal resource, but on other resources. And is there a standard that are you in compliance with what is discussed at the EU level? Do you comply with the future regulation standards, if any? Yeah. Thanks.
I know, Isabelle, if you want to comment.
I have difficulties to understand. Yes, I have difficulties to understand the question. Is it about the availability of a standard at the
yes, it's. I know
European level. Is it the question?
Yes, it's the compliance with the EU discussions. Yeah, which model it follows.
So, if I understand well, you want to position the work in GEOENVI related to EU discussion currently. What yes. I can say is that LCA has a standard, a general standard for any types of systems, not specific to geothermal systems. There are initiatives at European level and at the IEA level to specify to provide these guidelines specific to energy pathways, and this is the case for photovoltaic systems, where the IEA provided guidelines to apply LCA to photovoltaics. And so the idea is that GEOENVI will also provide guidelines for applying LCA to geothermal systems. So this is one of our goals. There is another project finance supported by Europe, led by RINA, the Italian consultancy bureau, and Vito, and they are working for an assessment limited to carbon footprint. LCA is a multi-criteria assessment, so I think they have the scope of the study is limited to carbon footprint, and also specifically for manufacturing and running the system. LCA is supposed to be much wider, including possibly end of life. So we already had a meeting with the other project, and we are trying to make each project aware of the progress, and we are sharing a few actions. The first of one of them would be to share the literature review we already exchanged. And one of my colleagues attended an expert meeting in Europe, in Brussels in April. So we are making connections, but I think that our scope is a bit wider and we have longer time. We have a 3 years project, and they have a 1 year project ending this end of 2019. I don't know if I answer correctly. Is it your question?
Yes, I think it was quite clear, Isabelle. Anyway, Lauren, if you want to further have more explanation, you can all feel free to contact us. As you know, the website is also online, available for 1 month, geoenvi.eu. Here you can also contact us through the website. I thank you again, Isabelle. I will now give the floor to Peter Valkering from Vito. And the floor is yours to present us the methodology we have on environmental regulation. Peter, the floor is yours.
Yes. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Valkering from Vito. Also welcome on behalf of the other Work Package 4 partners and the people who are contributing to this particular presentation. So Work Package 4 is about engaging with decision makers. So please, next slide. So important to mention, the Work Package 4 really just recently started. It started in month 6, so this is about 1 month ago. So in this talk, I will really give an introduction about the approach that we're intending to take, not yet specifying any results. I will give a very brief introduction on the aims and ambitions, and then go into 2 particular topics a bit more in depth: process mapping of regulation and actors, and also the setup of the national workshops. So the aim, as we formulated this, is to find the best strategy to harmonize and empower existing environmental regulations, adapting life cycle thinking into it based on results from Work Package 2 and 3, and then also engaging decision makers and other stakeholders in order to facilitate the change. Important is that we have 6 case study countries that we're looking at. So this is Italy, France, Iceland, Turkey, Hungary, and Belgium. And you see in brackets the national lead partners who are in the lead for these countries. So kind of the national level is the main focus point in the analysis of regulation, but obviously we also include EU level, regional and local level where applicable. Yes, next slide. So we have 3 main tasks. We have the first one, which is about decision-making process mapping. We will list all the relevant regulations. Currently, we are developing a template for doing so. And then the second aim of this task is to establish what we call national fora, which is basically getting an overview of all the actors that are involved in environmental regulations in terms of developing regulations, but also those that are being affected by regulations. Task 2 is all about the formulation of recommendations. Kind of a 2-step approach that we foresee. First is to rank all the regulations that are there and those that are really the most important, and then together with stakeholders also discuss and analyze how these could be improved, and spreading the word, of course. Task 3 is then runs in parallel to these 2 tasks, which is the participatory trajectory, and here the backbone is 3 national workshops. The one on informing, which is currently already ongoing, started already in Italy. That will be the first step. Then there is a workshop focusing on barriers and solutions, and finally on the reflection on solutions, on the recommendations, and how that can lead to actions. Next slides. So I will go a little bit more in depth on tasks 4.1 and tasks 4.3, as they have already started, even if it was only recent. So the process mapping, it's kind of two key elements actually. It is the listing of the regulations, and also the mapping of the stakeholders. That's actually the most important thing to say. Of course, we will build upon the available material, in particular on regulations. We already found quite a lot of descriptions on different countries. Of course, we have to kind of systemize it for our case study countries, and we'll develop a report also translated to the different languages in the different countries. Next slide. So how will we go about doing this? Desktop analysis is important, in particular for the policies and regulations. Then we have, in terms of getting an overview of the different actors to involve, we will tap from our experience on national case studies. The different partners in the project have a lot of a big network of stakeholders they have encountered in previous activities, of course. And from that, getting some kind of a selection rationale and to understand better who are the key actors to focus on, and invite some of them also for interviews to further characterize their views. Next slide. So in terms of the types of actors that are particularly relevant, so in the core of our analysis are the decision makers, so which we also refer to as the regulation owners. As you see here, specified in the center. But we want to be very clear that we are extending the scope. It's also really relevant to include those that are being affected by environmental regulations on deep geothermal. So typically this would be people who are in the process of developing deep geothermal that have to do with these regulations. They have to commit to those regulations. And of course also other societal groups that might be experiencing environmental impacts and risks. So who are very also interested and affected by these regulations. It's up to us. It's work in progress. If you go to the next slide, to map that in a bit more systematic way. This is one example that we might use in our further work from a recent report where technological innovation systems approach is used to map different actors involved in the development of such innovative technologies. In this case, it is being applied to concentrated solar power. Then our task would be to develop such a scheme for deep geothermal, and to position, say, the different actor groups that are of interest to us, typically politics and policies as regulation owners, but also supply side actors and other influencers for our analysis. Next slide. So that was a bit on the process mapping, and then on the stakeholder engagement. So as said before, there are 3 national workshops on informing on barriers and solutions, and on the reflection on those solutions and actions. In terms of the national workshop 1 that's being currently developed, we had a pioneer, which was the Italian case, that already held their first workshop last April. For the other cases, this will follow in the course of the next, say, half year, from between April and October. So we will work with a common program, but also flexible because it's adapted to the different country contexts. Participation, it depends a little bit on case by case how wide we will go or how focused, but clearly we will go beyond the decision makers there. And also interactivity is very important for us, working, for example, with a stakeholder questionnaire or other interactive elements. The next slide gives an impression of the workshop that was already done in Italy. So we had 70 participants. I think it was really a successful workshop with a lot of interest being held there. And here, as far as you can read it, sorry, it's a little bit small, but this gives an overview of the program. What is important to remember, we typically give, of course, an introduction to the project, to results from work package 2 and 3. And then what is very important is to really go into this dialogue, give the floor to key actors involved in the Italian case, for example, to the operators, to ministries, and to discuss the topic of environmental regulation and how this can be improved. So I wanted to close at this slide, and maybe for some of you, it can be interested to attend for one of our workshops. So hope to see you there.
Thank you, Peter. I think it was quite clear for presentation with how we will engage in order to have better regulation for environmental impact of geothermal. I will now continue by giving the floor to Lorena Torcello for explaining how we'll engage with market actors, mainly project developers and operators. And after, we'll have a short question and answer. So Lorena, the floor is yours now.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. And I'm Lorena Torcello, and I'm trying to present the work package 5 about the engagement of market stakeholders. I'm talking this morning on behalf of our partners involved in the work package 5, which is OS and GEORG, particularly speaking. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the general organization of the work package and the main goals that we would like to achieve. And we are talking about stakeholder, generally speaking. So apart from the decision makers, which will be faced in the work package 4, we would like to involve in the adoption and in the spreading activities of LCA culture all the actors involved in geothermal exploitation and deployments. So we would try to affect the culture and the approaches and the methodologies that the stakeholder should use and should adopt in their usual activities. So for this reason, we try to propose a recommendation in order to face the environmental impacts related to geothermal exploitation, and we will try to improve the awareness about them. So the first step of this work package, of course, is much more related to the mapping of the potential actors interested in being informed and then in being to adopt the LCA protocol that we will try to spread and to explain. From this region, the mapping is quite challenging because the people potentially involved are quite large, and we would like to inform all of them and to involve all of them as far as it will be possible, of course. The recommendation that we will try to explain is related to the harmonized guidelines to assess the environmental impacts that our colleagues will be producing in work package 2 and in work package 3 especially. And from the opportunities to have a simplified approach and simplified protocol, we would like to enlarge as much as possible the adoption and the awareness of this kind of toolkits that imply methods and model for environmental impact assessments along the life cycle of projects. Next slide, please. Thanks. So the objective can be synthesized in slides. So we would like to map the stakeholders, the relevant market actors, and we would like also to identify their entities and the relationships with which they are related to the geothermal energy and geothermal projects. So it's important even to understand which are the expectations from this kind of different actors from the GEOENVI results. Stakeholders engagement, of course, is important since they are the way in which the recommendation and the different change in thinking and in facing geothermal energy exploitation can be obtained, and in order to improve the sustainability of geothermal projects along life cycle project itself. For this reason, we will prepare and distribute informative and communication materials. We would like to explain in clearest way the models, the LCA approach, the models that our colleagues are showing us, and some protocols and simplified models in order to spread the opportunities to use them. From this kind of information, we also prepared recommendation and guidelines to support the involvement, the engagements of this kind of actors. And hopefully we would like also to obtain some incentive mechanism in order to facilitate the adoption of this kind of tool. During the work package, we try to test the activities and the protocols by involving the market actors more sensitive to this kind of topics. The feedbacks that we would like to obtain can be helpful even to improve the models and the protocol that at the end we will present as the main results of the GEOENVI projects. Next slide, please. The work package is organized in 3 different tasks. The first one is focused on mapping the actors. So we would like to understand which are the stakeholders having the highest potential towards the achievement of the projects. So this means identify them and their relationships with geothermal projects, and even obtaining information by past experiences in this kind of activities and strategies. The engagement can be obtained by recurring to training activities, workshop, data collaboration, capacity buildings, tools, and so on and so forth. And in all of them, we will try to support the adoption of LCA methodologies by the stakeholders involved. All the projects will be, all the stakeholders can be found in the case studies, in the national case studies countries. So this means the 6 countries that are in which the GEOENVI project is focused on. And we would like even to spread around the other countries at European level the approaches that we would try to spread. The stakeholders can be much more related to the market actors. This means geothermal development subcontractors or investors, but we would like to enlarge the set of stakeholders, even involving other kind of actors that are interesting for the deployments of different geothermal projects. So this means service companies, this means NGOs, and educational bodies, the media actors, and generally speaking, representatives from civil societies. And next slide, please. In the second task, we would like to prepare some recommendation and to share the information with the people that we will meet during our activities on the field. So the stakeholders should be selected in each region involved, at least 2 or 3 stakeholders per regions, and we will try to organize training seminars or training activities, generally speaking, in order to define the audience and the set of stakeholders to which will be defined, and with which we share the protocols and the tools related to the LCA approach applied in this field, specific fields. We would have some test periods. During the test periods, we try to apply to the specific national context and to specific situation the toolkits that we will present, and by using a web-based platform, we try to obtain the application of the simplified models, LCA simplified models, and after that we try to collect all the feedbacks in order to organize reports and try to improve the first release of the protocols that we obtain. Next slide. Further, we try even to affect the eco-events or other database instruments that can be helpful for improving the awareness and the information related to the environmental impacts on from geothermal activities, generally speaking. Thanks. Next slide. Finally, the last task is much more related to the adoption of the tools. So the adoption of the simplified model should be spread out to all market actors. So we try to enlarge the number of people involved, the number of actors or stakeholders involved in the activities and in the results coming up from geothermal projects. And the stakeholder engagement should be done by organizing about 2 workshops at the national level. The first one should be much more related to inform the participants, and in the second one we would like to present and discuss the solution and the possible guidelines and affecting activity of the regulation and the common organization of activities related to the stakeholders involved. The workshop will be organized at the national levels in collaboration with our partners and even with the colleagues from Work Package 3, the experts on LCA approaches and methodologies. And we would like even to share which are the opportunities to adopt the LCA guidelines in each country involved in the activities. Next slide, please. Okay, those are the deliverables. So as you can have seen, we have just started our activities because we should start in month 6, and we are organizing the activities much more related to the mapping, and we will work until the end of the project. So the last deliverables is planned for the month 13. Thank you. I think that is all, and I'll wait for your question if you have.
Thank you, Loredana. So indeed, with that, we have presented you all the activities we are planning with this project. As you mentioned, the project started in November, so 6 months ago. It will last until mid-2021. Now you have a clear idea. Some of you want to intervene? Do you want to raise your hand if you have a specific question? We have some written questions, so maybe we can look at them. Yes, some are a bit technical, so maybe they will be answered on an individual basis. No, nobody is raising the hand, so I think it was quite clear. I thank you all for having participated to this webinar. We were more than 100. We have achieved the score of 108 participants. As you have seen, notably in the last presentation, you will have in the 6 partners countries, so in Belgium, France, Turkey, Iceland, Hungary, a series of activities, workshops, and Italy, sorry, workshops, but also training seminar for companies in order to better understand this tool of LCA. And for the rest of Europe, we will have some European events and European workshops, also a series of webinars like the one we have today in 2020 and 2021. So you will be regularly updated about the activities of the project, and feel free to engage with our project. You're more than welcome. Already a lot of you have intervened today, orally or with questions that we are about to answer. So I thank you again. It's 12 o'clock. As promised, we are closing now the GEOENVI webinar. I thank you again, and I wish you a nice day. Goodbye.